Right now, there is an invisible war being waged against your wallet, your ambitions, and your future. And the terrifying part is that you are completely unaware you are losing. Every single day, roughly 89% of Americans wake up, go to work, pay their bills, and fall asleep believing they are doing everything right. Yet statistically, most of them will retire with less than $50,000 saved, dependent on Social Security checks that barely cover their rent. But here is what nobody tells you. It is not about your salary, it is not about your education, and it is definitely not about luck. After spending hundreds of hours researching behavioral economics, interviewing financial psychologists, and analyzing the exposed strategies of self-made millionaires, I discovered something disturbing. There are exactly 7 psychological traps that have been engineered, some intentionally and some accidentally, to keep the average American stuck in a perpetual cycle of financial mediocrity. And today, I am going to expose every single one of them, show you exactly how they work, and more importantly, give you the specific mental frameworks to escape each trap permanently. If you watch this entire video, your relationship with money will never be the same again. Stay with me. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, you just stumbled upon a video that could genuinely change the trajectory of your financial life. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because we release content like this every single week. Now, before we dive into these 7 traps, I need you to understand something critical. This is not a video about budgeting tips or investment strategies. Those are surface-level solutions to a much deeper problem. What we are addressing today operates at the subconscious level. These are mental programs that were installed in your brain during childhood, reinforced by society, and exploited by corporations, and they run silently in the background of every financial decision you make. The wealthy understand these traps intimately, which is why they avoid them while the rest of America falls victim again and again. I want you to grab a notebook right now because you are going to want to write these down. Also, drop a comment below telling me which state you are watching from. I am genuinely curious about where our community is located, and I read every single comment. Alright, let us get into trap number 1, and honestly, this one alone keeps more Americans broke than any other factor combined. Trap number 1 is called the lifestyle inflation trap, and I guarantee you have fallen into this without even realizing it. Here is how it works. You graduate college making $45,000 a year. You are living in a small apartment, driving a used Honda, eating ramen noodles, and you know what? You are actually pretty happy, then you get a promotion. Now you are making $60,000. Logically, you should be saving that extra $15,000, right? But what actually happens? You move to a nicer apartment because you deserve it after all of that hard work. You upgrade your car because you need something more reliable. You start eating out more because you can finally afford it. 3 months later, you are somehow living paycheck to paycheck again, just at a higher income level. This phenomenon is what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, and it is absolutely devastating to wealth building. A landmark study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that emotional well-being plateaus at approximately $75,000 annually. After that, more money does not make you happier. Yet Americans continue to inflate their lifestyles with every raise, bonus, and windfall, always staying exactly one step behind their income. The wealthy operate completely differently. They follow what I call the wealth gap principle. Every time their income increases, they intentionally keep their lifestyle the same and aggressively invest the difference. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,000. Meanwhile, the average American making $100,000 annually saves less than 5% of their income because they have expanded their lifestyle to consume 95% of everything they earn. Here is how to escape this trap permanently. Every time you receive an income increase, immediately automate at least 50% of that increase into investments before you ever see it in your checking account. What you do not see, you do not spend. This creates what behavioral economists call artificial scarcity, and it tricks your brain into adapting to your previous lifestyle while your wealth silently compounds in the background. I want you to comment below right now with the word aware if you just realized you have been victim to lifestyle inflation. Trust me, you are not alone, and awareness is the first step to breaking free. Trap number 2 is the comparison trap, and social media has turned this into an epidemic that is silently bankrupting millions of Americans. Let me paint a picture you will recognize immediately. You are scrolling through Instagram on a Tuesday afternoon. Your college roommate just posted pictures from their vacation in the Maldives. Your cousin uploaded photos of their brand new BMW. That couple from high school you barely remember is moving into a house twice the size of yours. And somewhere deep in your subconscious, a voice whispers that you are falling behind, that you are not successful enough, that you need to do something to keep up. This is not weakness. This is biology. Humans are hardwired for social comparison. Our brains contain mirror neurons that constantly evaluate our status relative to our peers. And social media has hijacked this ancient system, creating a 24/7 comparison machine that never existed in human history. But here's what that Instagram feed never shows you. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. The average car loan is now over $700 per month for 72 months. Consumer credit card debt in America has surpassed $1 trillion. That luxurious lifestyle you are comparing yourself to is often funded entirely by debt, stress, and financial anxiety that never makes it into the highlight reel. A study from the Federal Reserve found that nearly 40% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense. Let that sink in. Almost half of America is one car repair away from financial crisis, yet they are projecting images of success that make you feel inadequate. The wealthy understand that comparison is the thief of wealth. They compare themselves only to their past selves and their future goals, never to the manufactured images of strangers. Here is your escape strategy. Implement what I call a comparison detox. For the next 30 days, unfollow or mute every account that triggers financial comparison. Replace that input with content from people who are financially where you want to be in 10 years, people who teach wealth building rather than wealth displaying. Your brain will literally rewire itself around new reference points, and you will find that the urge to keep up with the Joneses fades dramatically. Remember, the goal is not to look rich. The goal is to actually be rich. Trap number 3 is the instant gratification trap, and I am going to explain why your brain is literally working against your financial success. In the 1960s, Stanford psychologist Walter Mischel conducted what became known as the marshmallow experiment. Young children were given a simple choice: eat one marshmallow now, or wait 15 minutes and receive 2 marshmallows. The researchers then followed these children for decades, and what they discovered was remarkable. The children who demonstrated the ability to delay gratification went on to have higher SAT scores, lower rates of obesity, better stress management, and significantly higher levels of wealth accumulation. This single trait, the ability to delay gratification, predicted financial success more accurately than IQ, family background, or education level. Now here is the problem. Modern American society has been engineered to destroy your ability to delay gratification. Amazon offers one-click purchasing. Credit cards remove the pain of payment. Subscription services spread costs into invisible monthly charges. By now, pay-later programs have exploded in popularity. Every single one of these innovations is designed to bypass your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part of your brain, and activate your limbic system, the primitive part that demands immediate reward. The average American household pays over $1,300 annually in credit card interest alone. That is money literally evaporating because of an inability to wait. But compound that same $1,300 invested at 10% annual return over 30 years, and you would have nearly $300,000. This is the true cost of instant gratification. It is not the coffee you bought today. It is the mansion you will never own in 30 years. Here is the escape strategy that wealthy individuals use religiously. Implement the 24-hour rule. For any non-essential purchase over $50, force yourself to wait 24 hours before buying. Write it down, sleep on it, and revisit the decision the next day. Studies show that 60% of impulsive purchases are never made after this waiting period. Your emotional brain cools down, your rational brain takes over, and you realize you never actually needed that item. For purchases over $500, extend this to a 1-week waiting period. For purchases over $5,000, wait 1 month. This simple framework has saved me personally tens of thousands of dollars over the past 5 years. Trap number 4 is paradoxically both the cause and effect of poverty. It is called the scarcity mindset trap, and it creates a devastating feedback loop that keeps millions of Americans financially stuck for their entire lives. Let me explain the psychology. When you are constantly worried about money, when you are stressed about bills, when you feel like there is never enough, your brain enters a state that researchers call cognitive scarcity. This mental state literally reduces your functional IQ by approximately 13 points, equivalent to losing an entire night of sleep. You make worse decisions, you focus only on immediate problems, you lose the ability to plan for the future, and you become trapped in a cycle of short-term thinking that guarantees long-term poverty. Princeton researchers Senthil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir documented this extensively in their groundbreaking book Scarcity. They found that poverty is not just a lack of money. It creates a psychological condition that actually perpetuates itself. When you are operating from scarcity, you cannot see opportunities, you cannot take calculated risks. You cannot invest in yourself or your future because every mental resource is consumed by surviving the present. This is why telling someone who is broke to simply budget better is not just useless, it is physiologically ignorant. But here is the most important insight. Scarcity mindset is not limited to those who are actually poor. I have met people earning $300,000 annually who still operate from scarcity because of childhood programming. They hoard money obsessively, refuse to invest in opportunities, and live in constant fear of losing everything. This actually limits their wealth potential significantly because building wealth requires calculated risk-taking, investment, and an underlying belief that more is coming. The escape from this trap requires rewiring your relationship with money at a fundamental level. Start with what I call abundance deposits. Every morning, write down 3 financial wins from the previous day, no matter how small. Maybe you resisted an impulse purchase. Maybe you received an unexpected check. Maybe you simply earned another day's salary. This practice rewires your reticular activating system to scan for abundance rather than scarcity. Secondly, invest immediately, even if it is just $1. The act of investing, regardless of amount, signals to your brain that you have excess, that you are building rather than just surviving. Over time, these practices create a neurological shift from scarcity to abundance that transforms your financial decision-making capabilities. Trap number 5 is perhaps the most psychologically damaging of all, and it was discovered accidentally in a laboratory in 1967. Psychologist Martin Seligman was studying depression when he observed something remarkable in his experiments with dogs. When dogs received electric shocks that could not escape, they eventually stopped trying to avoid the shocks entirely, even when escape became possible. They had learned to be helpless. This phenomenon, which Seligman termed learned helplessness, applies directly to how millions of Americans relate to their financial situation. Listen to the language people use. I will never be able to afford a house. Rich people got lucky and I did not. The system is rigged against people like me. I am just bad with money. These statements reveal a belief that financial success is beyond personal control, that external forces have already determined the outcome, so why even try? And here is the devastating truth. Once this belief takes hold, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You stop looking for opportunities, you stop educating yourself about money. You stop taking the actions that could change your situation. You have learned to be financially helpless. Psychologists call this an external locus of control, the belief that outside forces determine your outcomes. The wealthy consistently demonstrate an internal locus of control. They believe their actions directly impact their results. When they fail, they ask what they could have done differently. When they succeed, they identify the strategies that worked so they can repeat them. This is not delusion or ignoring systemic barriers. It is understanding that within whatever constraints exist, your choices still matter enormously. Consider this. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty in rural Mississippi to a single teenage mother. Howard Schultz, who built Starbucks, grew up in public housing in Brooklyn. Ralph Lauren started selling ties out of a drawer. Du Kyung-seong Park, who founded Hyundai, was a rice farmer's son. These individuals face systemic barriers far beyond what most Americans experience, yet they developed an internal locus of control that powered them through those barriers. Here is your escape. Take out a piece of paper right now and write at the top, "I am 100% responsible for my financial future." Then list 5 actions you can take this week, regardless of external circumstances, to improve your financial situation. It does not matter how small these actions are. What matters is reclaiming agency. Every action you take reinforces the belief that you have control, and that belief becomes the foundation for massive financial transformation. Trap number 6 is the financial illiteracy trap, and honestly, this one makes me angry because it is a systemic failure that was entirely preventable. Let me ask you something. In 12 years of mandatory education, how many hours were dedicated to teaching you about compound interest, investing, tax optimization, credit scores, or building wealth? For most Americans, the answer is 0. We are taught calculus that we will never use, but we are not taught how money actually works in the real world. This is not an accident. An uninformed population is a compliant population, easier to sell products to, easier to profit from, easier to keep in financial servitude. The numbers are staggering. Only 24% of millennials demonstrate basic financial literacy according to FINRA research. 63% of Americans do not have enough savings to cover a $500 emergency. The average American has no idea what an expense ratio is, yet they are supposed to select their own 401k investments. They do not understand how credit card interest compounds, yet they are handed credit cards at 18. They cannot explain the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, yet their retirement security depends on these choices. Meanwhile, the wealthy ensure their children receive comprehensive financial education from childhood. They discuss money at the dinner table. They give their children investment accounts instead of savings accounts. They teach compound interest with real examples. By the time these children reach adulthood, they have a 15-year head start in financial understanding over their peers who were taught nothing. The escape from this trap is simple but requires commitment. Dedicate 30 minutes daily to financial education for the next 90 days. Read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Study The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. Watch videos from creators who explain investing, tax strategies, and wealth building in plain language. Subscribe to financial newsletters. Listen to podcasts during your commute. Treat financial education with the same seriousness you would treat a college degree, because the return on investment is actually much higher. In 90 days, you will understand more about building wealth than 90% of Americans, and that knowledge will compound into millions of dollars over your lifetime. The 7th and final trap is the fear of judgment trap, and this is the silent killer of financial ambition that nobody talks about. Here is the truth that most people will never admit out loud. They are terrified of what others will think if they succeed financially. They are afraid of being seen as greedy, materialistic, or sellouts. They worry that making money will change how friends and family perceive them. And so they unconsciously sabotage their own success to maintain social comfort. This phenomenon is often called tall poppy syndrome or the crab bucket mentality. When one crab tries to escape the bucket, the others pull it back down. When one person in a social group starts to succeed financially, there is often subtle and sometimes overt pressure to stay at the group's level. Comments like "must be nice" or "money changes people" or "they think they are better than us" create an invisible fence around ambition. But consider this: every single wealthy person you admire faced judgment for their pursuit of success. They were criticized for working too hard. They were mocked for their ambitious goals. They were called crazy for taking risks. The difference is they decided that their vision for their life mattered more than the opinions of people who were not living it. Your escape strategy requires an identity-level decision. You must decide that building wealth is not about greed. It is about freedom. It is about providing for your family. It is about having the resources to make a difference. It is about never being trapped in a job you hate because you need the paycheck. It is about leaving a legacy. When you anchor your wealth building to these deeper values, the fear of judgment loses its power. Let them talk. You will be too busy building your empire to hear them. Let us recap these 7 psychological traps that keep most Americans poor. Trap 1: lifestyle inflation, solved by automating savings before you see income increases. Trap 2: the comparison trap, solved by detoxing from social media highlight reels. Trap 3: instant gratification, solved by implementing waiting periods before purchases. Trap 4: scarcity mindset, solved by practicing daily abundance deposits. Trap 5: learned helplessness, solved by taking full responsibility and immediate action. Trap 6: financial illiteracy, solved by committing to 90 days of intensive education. Trap 7: fear of judgment, solved by anchoring wealth building to your deepest values. Here is what I need you to do right now. Choose one trap to focus on this week. Just one. Master the escape strategy for that trap before moving to the next. Comment below with which trap has been affecting you most. I will personally respond with additional strategies tailored to your situation. If this video opened your eyes to even one trap you did not know existed, smash that like button so the YouTube algorithm shows this to other Americans who need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel because next week I am releasing a video on the 7 wealth building habits that millionaires practice daily, and you do not want to miss it. Click the notification bell so you are the first to know when it drops. If you want to continue your education right now, click the video appearing on screen. I handpicked it specifically for viewers who finish this video, and it will take your understanding to the next level. Remember, the only thing standing between you and financial freedom is the decision to start. Make that decision today. I will see you in the next video.